I am sad and I hope she lives in a better place. I'm here thinking that she will find her happiness at her new home, just like she brought happiness to us.
Even though I knew it was time to send it back, I felt that the time had come all of a sudden, and I felt reluctant to give it up. Fu Bao, I have saved up the money. I will see you in China. I will definitely come to visit you, and we can have a housewarming party.
Let's go to Kuala Lumpur and speak to Chee Meng Tan, who's a professor at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Professor, thank you so much for your time. I understand you're actually a bit of an expert in panda diplomacy. When did that phrase begin? How old is this practice?
Well, the practice started around the 1940s when the wife of the president of China at that point, Chiang Kai-shek, sent a pair of pandas to Washington as a form of gratitude for the American help against the Japanese. So the practice sort of continued over into the 50s, 60s, and eventually in the 70s, when the Chinese Communist Party was in rule of the mainland China. Pat Nixon and Richard Nixon came to Beijing and got pandas to go to Washington Zoo. And from then onwards, the program started, gaining a lot of popularity, and it is what it is today.
How successful has it been? And just looking at the face of this panda on the side of this truck, you would have thought it must have been hugely successful. I think everybody, when they look at a panda, has to smile.
I think so, because one of the reasons why the pandas are so attractive is because they're round, they're clumsy, they're really cute and adorable, and they sort of resemble a child, a human child. And the fact that China is actually sending pandas out as not just icons or national symbols for the country, but as a gesture of peace and as a gesture of conservation actually makes this a really noble cause where people are actually taking part in saving an endangered or vulnerable species.
Why would Fu Bao be leaving just at the age of 3? It doesn't seem as if she's been in South Korea for very long.
There is an agreement between China and hosting zoos that if pandas are actually born within a couple of years, they have to send them back. That's part of the agreement. So this is actually very normal.
And in terms of the care that these pandas get, does China have any say in it at all, considering that China seems to be the country that understands pandas better than others, certainly in their wild habitat? But does China still maintain contact with those zoos, or once the panda goes there, until the panda, if the panda or their cubs return, that's the only involvement China has?
I think there's a lot of involvement between China and the hosting zoos. Certainly, the training that's actually needed to care for the pandas, the food, the habitats, the temperature of the places that the pandas live in, have a very big impact on the well-being of the giant pandas. And so, obviously, there is going to be constant, frequent contact, I think, between the zoos that host pandas as well as the Chinese authorities. There has to be, because you're talking about a national treasure for the Chinese. So obviously they're going to be very, very concerned if something happens to their national treasures.
Yeah, have you ever heard of a country requesting pandas from China and Beijing refusing that request? I mean, I presume that there may be some political reasons that the Chinese simply don't want pandas in certain countries.
I'm pretty sure there are, but I don't recall any particular news outlet that's talked about how a certain country has done it in an overt fashion, and China has rejected them. There probably are a lot of, I don't know, undertones where maybe the countries have actually expressed their interest in getting pandas. And whether China says yes or not is really up to them, of course. But they might reject these requests, but they're not making them overtly public for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the Chinese way, of course, trying not to embarrass other nations. Professor, I know it's a really serious topic and really, really appreciate your analysis, but I think we have to end this interview by saying to any viewer, if you're in any doubt about how cute a panda is, just get on your smartphone and look for GIFs. You might call them GIFs, but they're GIFs, and just write panda.